The shadows of Ravens Hollow. In the tranquil town of Ravens Hollow, an invisible entity begins to wreak havoc, causing inexplicable accidents and spreading an ever-growing sense of dread among its residents. As the town spirals into paranoia, a disparate group of individuals, bound by fate, band together to uncover the source of this malevolent force. Their investigation takes them deep into the town's history, unearthing long-buried secrets and old grudges. This novel explores the themes of fear, reality manipulation, and the indomitable human spirit's quest for control in the face of the unknown. Index A. The unseen threat. B. Ripples of fear. C. Unlikely allies. D. Into the past. E. Shadows of history. F. The turning point. G. Revelations. H. Confrontation. I. The final stand. J. Dawn of hope. A. The unseen threat. The morning sun cast a warm, golden glow over the town of Ravens Hollow, but the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. Overnight, a series of strange accidents had shattered the town's tranquility, leaving the residents unnerved and on edge. Alex Carter, a local journalist with a penchant for uncovering the hidden truths of Ravens Hollow, was among the first to arrive at the scene of the most recent incident. The town square, usually a hub of bustling activity, was eerily quiet as Alex surveyed the damage. A large oak tree, which had stood for centuries, lay uprooted, its massive trunk sprawled across the cobblestone path. Nearby, shattered glass from the town's beloved bakery glittered in the morning light, the result of an unexplained explosion. Alex's mind raced with questions. How could a tree that had withstood countless storms suddenly fall on a calm night? What had caused the explosion in the bakery when there had been no fire, no signs of tampering? As Alex pulled out his notebook, he noticed the same uneasy expression on the faces of the gathering townspeople. Whispers of an invisible force began to spread, the fear palpable. Among the crowd, Alex spotted Sheriff Tom Willis, a no-nonsense man with years of experience but a deepening furrow in his brow. Approaching him, Alex asked, "Any leads on what caused this, Sheriff?" Sheriff Willis shook his head, his eyes scanning the scene with a mixture of frustration and concern. "None that make any sense. It's like the town is being targeted by something we can't see." The residents of Ravens Hollow, a close-knit community, began to share their own recent experiences: a car that veered off the road without warning, tools going missing only to reappear in impossible places, and livestock found mysteriously injured. The incidents, though seemingly isolated, painted a picture of an invisible threat growing bolder and more dangerous. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Alex decided to start with the victims. He interviewed Mrs. Henderson, the elderly owner of the bakery, who was still shaking from the shock. "I was in the back, prepping for the morning rush," she recounted. "Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the windows shattered. I didn't see anyone, Alex. It's like it came out of nowhere." Next, Alex spoke to Mr. Thompson, whose car had swerved off the road. "It felt like someone grabbed the wheel," he said, his voice trembling. "But there was no one there. Just me and my car." As Alex gathered more stories, a pattern began to emerge. The incidents were not random, they were concentrated in specific areas of the town and seemed to intensify during the night. With his notebook filled with the townspeople's accounts, Alex knew he needed more than just anecdotal evidence. He decided to visit Sarah Mitchell, the town's historian, hoping to find clues in the town's past that might explain the current phenomena. Sarah lived in an old Victorian house on the outskirts of town, surrounded by towering pines. She welcomed Alex with a wary smile, her curiosity piqued by his urgency. "What brings you here so early, Alex?" Alex explained the morning's events and the growing unease among the townspeople. Sarah listened intently, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the edge of an old leather-bound book. Raven's Hollow has a long history, much of it shrouded in mystery, she said thoughtfully. There have been periods of unrest before, often linked to the town's more supernatural tales. Sarah pulled out an old map of Raven's Hollow, spreading it across her desk. There are places in this town that have always been different. Unexplained things have happened here for centuries. Perhaps what we're seeing now is connected to something much older. As Alex left Sarah's house, his mind was buzzing with possibilities. The day was far from over, and he knew the road ahead would be filled with challenges. But one thing was certain, the unseen threat in Raven's Hollow was real, and it was growing stronger. Alex vowed to uncover the truth, no matter where it led. Notes: setting introduces Raven's Hollow, a quiet town now plagued by strange incidents. Main characters: Alex Carter, journalist; Sheriff Tom Willis, Mrs. Henderson; bakery owner, Mr. Thompson; victim, Sarah Mitchell, historian. Inciting incident: a series of unexplained accidents creates a sense of dread among the townspeople. Plot development: Alex begins to investigate, collecting accounts from victims and seeking historical context. Foreshadowing: hints at a deeper, possibly supernatural cause linked to the town's history. Ripples of fear: the sun barely crested the horizon when Alex Carter returned to the town square. Overnight, the rumors had spread, and the town was now buzzing with whispered conversations and furtive glances. The incidents were no longer isolated events in the minds of the residents, they were harbingers of something far more sinister. At the local diner, where Alex often gathered tips and gossip for his articles, the atmosphere was thick with tension. As he sipped his coffee, he overheard snippets of conversations that reflected the growing paranoia. "Did you hear about the Henderson's bakery?" one patron murmured to another. "It's like something out of a horror movie." "And what about the Thompsons' car? Veered right off the road, and no explanation," another replied, shaking his head. Alex made his rounds, notebook in hand, talking to anyone who would share their experiences. Each account added another layer to the mystery. Mrs. Peterson, who lived near the cemetery, reported seeing shadows moving against the moonlight, even though there was nothing there. Mr. Lyle, the school janitor, spoke of tools that seemed to move on their own. Every story added to the growing sense of fear. It was as if the very air in Raven's Hollow was charged with anxiety. Parents kept their children close, shopkeepers closed early, and the usual warmth of the community was replaced by an undercurrent of suspicion. As Alex walked through the town, he noticed a pattern. The incidents were concentrated in specific areas, often near locations with a historical significance. Determined to dig deeper, he decided to visit the town library to search through old records and see if there were any previous instances of such occurrences. The Raven's Hollow Library was a quaint building, its walls lined with books that chronicled the town's long history. Mrs. Lang, the librarian, greeted Alex with a knowing smile. "Back for more ghost stories, Alex?" she teased. "Something like that," Alex replied with a chuckle. "I'm looking for any records of strange incidents in the town's past. Anything that might explain what's happening now." Mrs. Lang's expression grew serious. "Follow me," she said, leading him to a section filled with old newspapers and town records. "There have always been whispers about Raven's Hollow. If there's something to find, it will be in here." Hours passed as Alex pored over the yellowed pages, tracing the town's history back through decades of births, deaths, and unexplained events. He found stories of a fire that had consumed the town hall in 1923, leaving no survivors. Accounts of children going missing in the 1800s, only to be found days later with no memory of their disappearance. Each event, though seemingly isolated, shared a common thread of fear and mystery. One account stood out. In the early 1900s, a series of strange accidents had plagued the town. The incidents were eerily similar to what was happening now: objects moving on their own, people experiencing unexplainable fear, and a pervasive sense of being watched. The records mentioned a local legend about a curse placed on the town by a wronged spirit, seeking vengeance on the descendants of those who had betrayed her. Alex's heart raced as he copied down the details. This was the lead he needed. The legend spoke of a woman named Eliza Blackwood, who had been accused of witchcraft and executed by the townspeople. Her dying curse was said to bind her spirit to the town, doomed to torment it until justice was served. Armed with this new information, Alex knew he had to share it with his group of allies. He called a meeting at Sarah Mitchell's house, knowing that she would have more insights into the town's dark past. As they gathered in Sarah's cozy living room, Alex shared his findings. The group listened intently, their faces reflecting a mixture of fear and determination. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Eliza Blackwood's story is one of the darker chapters in our town's history, she said. If her spirit is behind these incidents, we need to find a way to communicate with her and understand what she wants. Marcus, the retired detective, leaned forward. And if we can't reason with her? What then? Elena, the sensitive, spoke softly. We will. Spirits are often bound by unresolved emotions. If we can help her find peace, we can end this. The group agreed to begin their investigation with Eliza's grave, located in the old cemetery at the edge of town. As they prepared to face the unknown, the ripples of fear continued to spread through Raven's Hollow, but now, they had a direction and a purpose. Notes: setting continues in Raven's Hollow, focusing on the growing fear among the townspeople. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sheriff Tom Willis, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Mrs. Language. Plot development: Alex gathers more personal accounts of strange incidents, discovers historical patterns, and identifies a possible cause linked to a town legend. Themes: fear, paranoia, historical curses, the supernatural. Foreshadowing: the group's investigation points towards Eliza Blackwood and her curse as the source of the current disturbances. C. Unlikely allies: the sun had dipped below the horizon by the time Alex gathered his newfound allies at Sarah Mitchell's Victorian home. The house, surrounded by ancient pines, seemed like the perfect setting for their clandestine meeting. Its cozy interior, filled with the smell of old books and freshly brewed tea, offered a stark contrast to the chilling tales they were about to discuss. Sarah, the town historian, had already laid out her research materials on a large oak table in the center of the living room. Her collection of books, maps, and old newspaper clippings created a mosaic of Raven's Hollow's dark past. Marcus, the retired detective with a keen eye for detail, and Elena, the sensitive who could feel the presence of spirits, were already there, waiting for Alex to begin. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. "Thank you all for coming," he started, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "We're dealing with something unprecedented in our town's history. But I believe that together, we can uncover the truth and put an end to it." Sarah nodded, her eyes reflecting the resolve of someone who had spent a lifetime studying the town's secrets. "I've gone through every record I could find," she said, spreading out a map of the town. The pattern of incidents closely matches those that occurred during the early 1900s. It's all connected to Eliza Blackwood, Marcus leaned in, scrutinizing the map. So, we're looking at a curse placed by this Eliza Blackwood. What do we know about her? Sarah picked up a faded photograph of a woman with piercing eyes. Eliza was accused of witchcraft and executed by the townspeople in 1902. Legend has it that her dying curse was aimed at those who wronged her and their descendants. Elena shivered, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. I've sensed a presence around town. It's angry, and it's getting stronger. If Eliza's spirit is behind this, we need to find a way to communicate with her. Marcus crossed his arms, his skepticism evident. And how do you propose we do that? Hold assurance. Sarah shook her head. There's an old ritual described in one of these books. It's risky, but it might be our best shot. We need to perform it at her grave. Alex, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. We need to understand her pain and her anger. If we can show her that we're here to make things right, maybe we can end this peacefully. The group fell into a contemplative silence, the gravity of their task sinking in. Despite their different backgrounds, they shared a common goal, to save Raven's Hollow from the unseen threat that loomed over it. The following day, they decided to visit the cemetery where Eliza Blackwood was buried. The cemetery, located on the outskirts of town, was a place few dared to visit, especially after dark. As they walked among the ancient tombstones, the atmosphere grew thick with unease. Elena stopped in front of a weathered headstone, her breath catching in her throat. This is it, she whispered, pointing to the name etched into the stone, Eliza Blackwood. The group stood in solemn silence, each lost in their thoughts. Sarah cleared her throat, breaking the tension. According to the ritual, we need to gather certain items, personal belongings of Eliza, symbols of peace, and a token from those who wronged her. Marcus frowned. And where do we find these items? Alex stepped forward, determination in his eyes. We start by visiting the descendants of those who accused her. We need their cooperation. Their first stop was the old Henderson house. Mrs. Henderson, still shaken from the bakery incident, listened intently as Alex explained their theory. Her eyes widened with recognition as he mentioned Eliza Blackwood. My great-grandfather was one of the men who accused her, she admitted, her voice trembling. There are old letters and belongings in our attic. You're welcome to take anything that might help. As they sifted through the attic, Alex found a box filled with yellowed letters and trinkets. Among them was a locket that had belonged to Eliza. He held it up, feeling the weight of history in his hands. This is a good start, he said, pocketing the locket. Their next visit was to Mr. Thompson, whose family also had ties to the old accusations. He reluctantly handed over an old family heirloom, a ring that had once belonged to Eliza's fiancé, who had betrayed her. With these items in hand, the group returned to the cemetery that night. The air was thick with anticipation and fear as they prepared for the ritual. Sarah read aloud from the old book, her voice steady but laced with anxiety. Elena, holding the locket and ring, began to speak to the unseen presence. Eliza, we are here to make amends. We recognize the pain and injustice you suffered. Please, help us understand what you need to find peace. For a moment, nothing happened. The air was still, and the group held their breath. Then, a cold wind swept through the cemetery, and the ground beneath their feet trembled. Elena gasped, her eyes widening as she felt a powerful presence envelop them. The ritual was working. But what it would reveal, and how Eliza's spirit would respond, remained to be seen. The allies stood united, ready to face whatever came next, driven by a shared hope to reclaim their town from the grip of fear. Notes: setting: the Victorian home of Sarah Mitchell, the town cemetery. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Mrs. Henderson, Mr. Thompson. Plot development: the group of unlikely allies comes together, begins to investigate Eliza Blackwood's history, and prepares to perform a ritual to communicate with her spirit. Themes: unity, historical justice, the supernatural, confronting fear. Foreshadowing: the ritual at Eliza's grave sets the stage for the supernatural confrontation to come. Into the past. The night was quiet as the group stood in the cemetery, the weight of their task pressing down on them. The cold wind that swept through the gravestones carried whispers of a bygone era, and the shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own. Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena gathered around Eliza Blackwood's grave, their breath visible in the frigid air. Sarah began the ritual, her voice steady despite the gravity of their endeavor. "We call upon the spirit of Eliza Blackwood, wronged and restless. We seek to understand your pain and to offer you peace." She held the locket and ring in her hands, symbols of Eliza's lost love and betrayal. Elena, standing closest to the grave, felt a sudden chill that seeped into her bones. "She's here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can feel her presence." As the ritual continued, the air grew colder, and the ground beneath them seemed to pulse with a strange energy. The group closed their eyes, focusing their minds on the intent to communicate with Eliza's spirit. Moments later, a faint, ethereal figure began to take shape before them. Eliza's ghostly form, translucent and sorrowful, stood above her grave. Eliza's eyes, filled with centuries of torment, fixed on the group. "Why have you disturbed my rest?" her voice echoed, filled with both anger and sorrow. Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Eliza, we're here to understand what happened to you and to right the wrongs of the past. Please, tell us your story." The ghostly figure of Eliza hesitated, then began to speak. Her voice was filled with the pain of betrayal and the agony of injustice. "In life, I was wrongfully accused of witchcraft by those I trusted. My love, William, betrayed me for the favor of the townspeople. They condemned me to die, and with my last breath, I cursed them and their descendants. My spirit has lingered, fueled by the pain and injustice I endured." Eliza's story cast a pall over the group, the weight of her sorrow palpable. Marcus, ever the skeptic, found himself moved by her tale. "What can we do to help you find peace, Eliza?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically soft. Eliza's eyes softened, and for a moment, her form seemed less ghostly, more human. "To lift the curse, you must uncover the truth of my innocence and clear my name. Only then will my spirit be at peace." Sarah nodded, her resolve strengthening. "We'll do everything we can to prove your innocence, Eliza. You have our word." As Eliza's form began to fade, she left them with a final message. "Seek the truth in the old town records. There lies the evidence of my innocence. Uncover it, and free me from this eternal torment." With those final words, Eliza's spirit disappeared, leaving the group standing in the cold, dark cemetery. The air seemed lighter, less oppressive, as if a burden had been momentarily lifted. But their task was far from over. They had a promise to keep and a mystery to solve. The following day, Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena met at the town library, determined to follow Eliza's instructions. Mrs. Lang, the librarian, had already prepared a collection of old town records for them to sift through. The musty smell of aged paper filled the air as they began their search. Hours passed as they combed through the documents, each page revealing a piece of the past. They found court records, personal letters, and journal entries from the time of Eliza's trial. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. Many of the accusations against Eliza were based on jealousy and fear, fueled by the hysteria of the townspeople. One particularly revealing document was a letter from William, Eliza's lover, to the town council. In it, he confessed his betrayal, admitting that he had falsely accused Eliza to save himself from scrutiny. The letter was a damning piece of evidence, proof of Eliza's innocence. Alex held the letter up, his hands shaking with excitement. "This is it. This is what we need to clear her name." Sarah nodded, a triumphant smile on her face. "We need to present this to the town. They deserve to know the truth, and Eliza deserves to be exonerated." With renewed determination, the group planned a town meeting to share their findings. As the day of the meeting approached, the atmosphere in Ravens Hollow shifted. The fear that had gripped the town began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of hope and anticipation. The town hall was filled to capacity as the residents of Ravens Hollow gathered to hear the group's presentation. Alex stood at the front, holding the letter from William. He took a deep breath, then began to speak. "Fellow citizens of Ravens Hollow, we stand here today to rectify a grave injustice. For over a century, the spirit of Eliza Blackwood has been tormented by a wrongful accusation. We have uncovered evidence that proves her innocence." He read the letter aloud, the words echoing through the hall. As the townspeople listened, their expressions shifted from disbelief to understanding. The weight of history was lifted as the truth of Eliza's innocence was finally revealed. After the meeting, the group returned to Eliza's grave, the letter in hand. They read it aloud, hoping that her spirit could hear them. As they finished, a soft, ethereal light surrounded the grave, and Eliza's spirit appeared once more. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with gratitude. "You have given me the peace I longed for. The curse is lifted, and I can finally rest." With those final words, Eliza's spirit faded, leaving behind a sense of tranquility. The group stood in silence, reflecting on the journey they had undertaken. They had faced the unknown, uncovered the truth, and brought peace to a restless spirit. As they left the cemetery, the first rays of dawn broke over Ravens Hollow, symbolizing a new beginning for the town. The fear that had once gripped the residents was replaced by a sense of unity and hope, a testament to the power of truth and the resilience of the human spirit. Notes: setting continues in the cemetery and the town library. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Eliza Blackwood. Plot development: the group communicates with Eliza's spirit, learns her story, and uncovers evidence of her innocence. Themes: historical justice, the supernatural, unity, resilience. Foreshadowing: the town meeting and the presentation of evidence mark a turning point in the story, leading to the resolution of Eliza's torment. Shadows of history: with Eliza Blackwood's spirit now at rest, the town of Ravens Hollow began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The eerie incidents had ceased, and a sense of normalcy was slowly returning. However, the group of unlikely allies knew that their work was not yet complete. They had uncovered Eliza's innocence, but the shadows of history still lingered, hinting at deeper secrets buried within the town. Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena met once again, this time in the comforting ambience of Sarah's living room. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. They were joined by Mrs. Lang, the librarian, who had been instrumental in their research. Alex broke the silence, his voice reflective. "We've lifted the curse and cleared Eliza's name, but I can't help feeling there's more to uncover. The patterns of fear and unrest, there might be other stories like Eliza's, hidden in Raven's Hollow's past. Mrs. Lang nodded, her eyes thoughtful. You're right, Alex. Our town's history is filled with tales that haven't been told. Many have been forgotten or deliberately hidden. Sarah agreed. We need to keep digging. If there are more injustices like Eliza's, we have a responsibility to uncover them. The town deserves to know the full truth. The group decided to delve deeper into the town's archives, focusing on periods of unrest and mysterious occurrences. Their goal was to piece together a broader narrative of Raven's Hollow, one that included the voices and stories of those who had been wronged or forgotten. As they immersed themselves in the archives, they began to notice a recurring theme: power struggles, jealousy, and fear had often led to the marginalization and persecution of certain individuals and families. These stories, though separated by time, were connected by the common thread of human frailty and the consequences of unchecked power. One story that stood out was that of Abigail Winters, a healer in the early 1800s who had been accused of practicing dark magic. Her skills in herbal medicine had been a boon to the community until a series of unexplained illnesses led to suspicion and fear. Abigail was tried and convicted based on flimsy evidence, and she met a tragic end similar to Eliza's. Elena, deeply moved by Abigail's story, felt a familiar chill as she read through the records. "It's happening again," she whispered. The same fear and paranoia that led to Eliza's death took Abigail as well. Marcus, with his detective instincts kicking in, pointed out another case from the 1700s. A group of settlers, led by a man named John Hastings, had claimed a piece of land that was later said to be cursed. The original inhabitants, a small indigenous tribe, had been driven away under dubious circumstances. The land had since been plagued by misfortune, leading to whispers of a lingering curse. "These patterns are too similar to ignore," Marcus said, laying out the documents before them. "It seems like every generation has its scapegoat, someone to blame for the town's problems. And each time, the true cause is buried with them." Alex's mind raced as he connected the dots. If we can compile these stories and present them to the town, we can break this cycle of fear and blame. We need to show that history is repeating itself, and we have the power to change it. Their investigation took them to the town's oldest families, where they found more pieces of the puzzle. Many of these families had stories passed down through generations, tales of injustices and grudges that had never been resolved. The group realized that these unresolved issues had festered, contributing to the town's ongoing troubles. One evening, as they pored over their findings, Sarah suggested, "We should create a historical record, a book that documents these stories and the lessons we've learned. It could serve as a reminder and a warning for future generations." Mrs. Lang agreed. "We can call it Shadows of Raven's Hollow. It will be a testament to those who suffered and a guide to help the town avoid repeating these mistakes." The group set to work, compiling their research into a cohesive narrative. They included Eliza's story, as well as those of Abigail Winters and John Hastings. Each chapter highlighted the themes of fear, injustice, and the destructive power of unchecked authority. As the book took shape, the group felt a sense of purpose and closure. They were not only honoring the memory of those who had been wronged but also providing a tool for the community to heal and grow. When Shadows of Raven's Hollow was finally completed, they presented it to the town during a special gathering at the town hall. The response was overwhelming. The residents listened intently as Alex and his friends recounted the stories, their eyes opening to the patterns of fear and injustice that had plagued their town for centuries. the book became a symbol of reconciliation and understanding. It was placed in the town library, where it served as a reminder of the past and a beacon of hope for the future. As the days passed, Ravens Hollow began to change. The community, now more aware of its history, worked together to foster an environment of empathy and support. The shadows of the past had been brought to light, and the town was determined not to let them darken their future. For Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena, their journey had forged a bond of friendship and shared purpose. They knew that while they had uncovered many stories, there were always more to be found. And as long as they remained vigilant, the shadows of history would never again be allowed to hide the truth. Notes: setting, town library, homes of the oldest families, town hall. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Mrs. Language. Plot development: the group uncovers more historical injustices, compiles a book to educate the town, and presents it to the community. Themes: historical justice, reconciliation, community healing, the power of truth. Foreshadowing: the book Shadows of Ravens Hollow becomes a pivotal tool for the town's future, ensuring that past mistakes are not repeated. The turning point: the release of Shadows of Ravens Hollow marked a significant shift in the town's collective consciousness. The book's revelations stirred both introspection and a desire for change among the residents. As the town grappled with its history, a new chapter began to unfold, one characterized by unity and renewal. The morning after the book's unveiling, the town hall was abuzz with conversations. The once silent whispers of fear and suspicion were replaced by animated discussions about the past and how to move forward. Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena observed this transformation with a mix of satisfaction and hope. The group reconvened at the town's library, now home to their book and a growing collection of historical documents donated by townspeople. Mrs. Lang, the librarian, had set up a special section dedicated to the town's history, which quickly became a hub of activity. Alex addressed his friends, his voice tinged with optimism. "We've made a significant impact, but our work isn't done. We need to ensure that the lessons we've learned are integrated into the town's fabric." Sarah, ever the planner, suggested, "We should start by organizing community events that focus on our history and the importance of unity. Perhaps we could have a monthly gathering where we discuss different aspects of our past and how they relate to our present." Elena added, "And we could involve the younger generation. Schools should incorporate local history into their curriculum. If the children understand where we've come from, they'll be more likely to build a better future." Marcus, who had been relatively quiet, nodded in agreement. "We should also establish a council to address any future conflicts or grievances. A formal body dedicated to mediation and understanding could prevent the kind of fear and suspicion that led to the tragedies we've uncovered." The group agreed on these initiatives, and with Mrs. Lang's help, they began to organize the first community gathering. The event was held in the town square, under the shade of the ancient oak trees that had witnessed centuries of Ravens Hollow's history. The turnout was impressive. Residents of all ages came together, eager to learn and contribute. Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena took turns speaking, sharing stories from the book and emphasizing the importance of empathy and understanding. A sense of camaraderie permeated the air. People who had once been strangers found common ground in their shared history. Old grudges were discussed openly, and many were resolved through heartfelt conversations. One particularly moving moment came when Mrs. Henderson, a descendant of one of Eliza Blackwood's accusers, publicly apologized to the town. My family's actions contributed to an injustice that has haunted us for generations. I am deeply sorry, and I hope that we can all move forward together, free from the shadows of our past." Her apology was met with applause and tears, symbolizing the healing process that had begun to take root in the community. As the months passed, the community events became a beloved tradition. The town council, formed by a diverse group of residents, worked diligently to address any emerging issues. Schools incorporated local history into their lessons, and the library's historical section continued to grow with new donations and discoveries. Ravens Hollow began to thrive in ways it never had before. The fear that had once hung over the town like a dark cloud was replaced by a sense of pride and optimism. The residents, now united by their shared experiences and understanding, worked together to build a brighter future. For Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena, the transformation of Ravens Hollow was a testament to the power of truth and reconciliation. Their journey had not only uncovered the town's hidden past but had also paved the way for a new era of unity and growth. As they stood together in the town square, watching the children play and the adults chat amiably, Alex turned to his friends. "We did it," he said, a smile spreading across his face. "We've given this town a new beginning." Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "And we've shown that even in the face of darkness, the human spirit has the power to heal and rebuild." Elena, feeling the presence of the spirits who had found peace, added, "We've honored those who were wronged, and in doing so, we've made sure their stories will never be forgotten." Marcus, ever the pragmatist, concluded, "We've proven that understanding our history is the first step to shaping a better future. Ravens Hollow will be a beacon for other towns, showing that reconciliation and growth are always possible." As the sun set over Ravens Hollow, casting a golden glow on the town that had once been shrouded in shadows, the four friends stood together, united in their achievement and hopeful for the future. The turning point had come, and with it, the promise of a new dawn for their beloved town. Notes: setting, town library, town square, community gatherings. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Mrs. Lang, Mrs. Henderson. Plot development: the town embraces the lessons from the book, initiates community events, forms a council, and integrates local history into education. Themes: reconciliation, community building, the power of education, unity, and hope. Foreshadowing: the chapter hints at Ravens Hollow becoming a model for other towns, showing that reconciliation and understanding can lead to a brighter future. Revelations: the unity and optimism that had enveloped Ravens Hollow were palpable. The town's residents felt a renewed sense of purpose and community, but for Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena, the journey was far from over. Their research had uncovered more than just the story of Eliza Blackwood, it had hinted at deeper, more complex truths about the town's history. One evening, while the group was gathered at Marcus's home, Elena revealed a curious document she had found among the latest batch of donations to the library. It was an old, yellowed diary, its cover worn but intact, belonging to a woman named Margaret Thorne. Margaret had lived in Ravens Hollow during the late 1600s, a period shrouded in mystery and rumor. Elena opened the diary to a marked page. "Listen to this," she said, her voice filled with intrigue. April 17, 1678. Today, I witnessed something I cannot explain. The council met in secret, speaking of a great power that lies beneath our feet. They say it is the source of the town's prosperity and its curse. I fear what they plan to do. The group exchanged puzzled glances. Alex leaned forward, his interest peaked. A great power. What could she be referring to? Mrs. Lang, who had joined them for the evening, offered her insight. There have always been legends about Raven's Hollow being built on sacred or cursed ground. This diary entry suggests there might be some truth to those stories. Perhaps the town's history is influenced by more than just human actions. Intrigued by this new lead, the group decided to investigate further. They returned to the library and delved into the oldest town records, searching for any references to unusual phenomena or secret meetings. As they pieced together fragments of information, a picture began to emerge. Raven's Hollow, it seemed, was built atop an ancient site of significant power, one that had been revered and feared by the indigenous people long before the settlers arrived. This power, according to the records, was both a blessing and a curse. It brought prosperity but also had the potential to unleash great misfortune if misused. Sarah uncovered an old map that marked the location of several key sites around the town, including a spot deep in the forest known as the Heart of the Hollow. This place was described in hushed tones as the center of the town's power, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. Determined to uncover the truth, the group decided to visit the Heart of the Hollow. They prepared for their journey, gathering supplies and researching protective rituals, unsure of what they might encounter. The day of the expedition was cloudy and foreboding, a stark contrast to the sunny optimism that had recently embraced the town. As they trekked through the dense forest, a sense of anticipation and unease settled over them. The trees grew taller and more twisted the deeper they went, casting long shadows that seemed to move with a will of their own. When they finally reached the Heart of the Hollow, they were met with an eerie sight. The clearing was dominated by an ancient stone altar, covered in moss and vines. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and the ground seemed to hum beneath their feet. Marcus, ever the skeptic, was the first to approach the altar. "This must be it," he said, his voice hushed. "This is the source of the town's power." As they examined the altar, they discovered carvings that depicted scenes of both prosperity and destruction. The imagery suggested that the power of the Hollow could be harnessed for good or evil, depending on the intentions of those who wielded it. Elena, who had been sensitive to the town's supernatural elements from the beginning, felt a strong connection to the place. "I think this is why the town has had such a turbulent history," she said softly. "The power here amplifies human emotions and intentions. It's not inherently good or bad, it's a reflection of us." The group realized that understanding and respecting this power was crucial for the future of Raven's Hollow. They decided to perform a ritual to honor the site and seek guidance. As they lit candles and spoke words of respect and unity, the air around them seemed to lighten, and a sense of peace settled over the clearing. After the ritual, Alex spoke, his voice filled with resolve. "We need to share what we've learned with the town. This place, this power, it's part of our history and our future. If we can respect it and use it wisely, we can ensure that Raven's Hollow remains a place of unity and prosperity." Returning to the town, they called for another gathering at the town hall. The residents listened in rapt attention as the group recounted their journey and discoveries. The revelation of the Heart of the Hollow and its significance was met with a mixture of awe and contemplation. The town council, inspired by the group's findings, decided to protect the site and educate the community about its importance. They implemented measures to ensure that the power of the Hollow would be respected and not exploited. In the weeks that followed, Raven's Hollow experienced a period of unprecedented harmony and growth. The town's history, once a source of division and fear, became a foundation for unity and understanding. The residents, now aware of the true nature of their home, worked together to build a future that honored the past and embraced the present. For Alex, Sarah, Marcus, Elena, and Mrs. Lang, the journey had been transformative. They had not only uncovered the secrets of Raven's Hollow but had also forged a bond that would last a lifetime. They knew that the town's story was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever came next, united and resilient. As they stood together at the edge of the forest, looking out over the town they had come to love, Alex spoke for them all. "We've come a long way, but this is just the beginning. Raven's Hollow has a bright future ahead, and we'll be here to help shape it." And with that, they turned back towards the town, ready to embrace the future with hope and determination. Notes: setting: Marcus's home, town library, forest, heart of the hollow, town hall. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Mrs. Language. Plot development: the group uncovers the true source of Raven's Hollow's power, performs a ritual to honor it, and shares their findings with the town. Themes: discovery, respect for history, unity, the balance of power. Foreshadowing: the protection and education about the heart of the hollow suggest a future where the town thrives by respecting and understanding its roots. Confrontation: as Raven's Hollow began to heal and grow stronger, not everyone was pleased with the changes. There were those in the town who viewed the revelations about the heart of the hollow and the newly discovered history as a threat to their long-standing influence and control. Among them was Councilman Henry Whitaker, a powerful and influential figure who had long benefited from the town's old ways. Henry had always been skeptical of the group's findings and their intentions. He saw their actions as a disruption to the established order and a challenge to his authority. Despite the growing harmony in the town, Henry was determined to maintain his grip on power, and he believed that discrediting Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena was the key. One evening, as the group gathered at Sarah's house to discuss their next steps, a knock at the door interrupted their meeting. Sarah opened the door to find Councilman Whitaker standing there, flanked by a few of his supporters. "Good evening, Sarah," Henry said, his tone cold and formal. "May I come in? We have matters to discuss." Sarah hesitated but stepped aside to let them in. As they entered, the atmosphere grew tense. Henry wasted no time in making his intentions clear. "I've come to address the chaos your so-called discoveries have brought to our town," Henry began, his eyes narrowing. "You've stirred up old wounds and disrupted the peace. This talk of the heart of the hollow and ancient powers is dangerous nonsense." Alex stepped forward, his voice steady. "Councilman Whitaker, what we've uncovered is the truth. The town deserves to know its history, and it's because of this knowledge that we're finding unity and strength." Henry scoffed. "Unity? Strength? All I see is division and fear. Your actions have brought nothing but unrest. We need to restore order, and that means putting an end to these foolish pursuits." Elena, feeling the tension rise, spoke up. "The town is changing for the better, Henry. People are coming together, understanding our past, and working towards a better future. You can't deny the positive impact this has had." Henry's expression darkened. "Positive impact? You're meddling with forces you don't understand. The heart of the hollow is a dangerous place, and your actions could bring about consequences none of us are prepared for." Sarah, determined to stand her ground, replied, "We've taken precautions and approached this with respect. The real danger lies in ignorance and fear. If we hide from the truth, we're doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past." Henry's supporters murmured in agreement with him, but it was clear that the group's words had struck a chord with some of them. The confrontation was not just about power but about differing visions for the future of Raven's Hollow. Marcus, ever the voice of reason, addressed the room. "Councilman Whitaker, we are not here to undermine your authority. We are here to ensure the town thrives. We believe in transparency and learning from our history. Together, we can make Raven's Hollow a better place." Henry's eyes flashed with anger. "Enough. I will not stand by and watch you tear this town apart. If you continue down this path, there will be consequences." With that, Henry turned and stormed out, his supporters following close behind. The room fell silent as the door closed behind them. Alex sighed, breaking the silence. "That didn't go as well as I'd hoped. Henry's not going to back down easily." Mrs. Lang, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. "You've done well to stand your ground. Change is never easy, especially for those who have much to lose. But remember, the truth is on your side." The group nodded, their resolve strengthened by her words. They knew that the path ahead would be challenging, but they were committed to seeing it through. They couldn't let fear and resistance undo the progress they had made. Over the next few days, tensions in the town rose. Henry Whitaker began to rally his supporters, spreading fear and doubt about the group's intentions and the heart of the Hollow. Meanwhile, Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena continued their work, reaching out to residents and explaining their findings. One night, as they gathered at the library to plan their next steps, they heard a commotion outside. They rushed to the window and saw a group of townspeople, led by Henry, approaching with torches and shouts of anger. "We can't let them destroy what we've built," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. Alex nodded. "We need to face them and make them understand." The group stepped outside, standing on the library steps as the crowd approached. Henry stepped forward, his face twisted with rage. "This ends now," he shouted. "We will not let you destroy our town with your lies and dangerous ideas." Alex raised his hands, calling for calm. "Please, listen to us. We are not here to destroy anything. We are here to help Raven's Hollow grow and heal. The heart of the Hollow is a part of our history, and understanding it is the key to our future." Henry sneered. "You're leading us into disaster. The heart of the Hollow is a curse, and you're bringing its wrath upon us." Elena stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "The only curse is ignorance and fear. The heart of the Hollow amplifies what we bring to it. If we approach it with fear and anger, that's what we'll get in return. But if we approach it with understanding and respect, it can be a source of strength." The crowd murmured, and some of Henry's supporters seemed to waver. Sarah seized the moment. "We've already seen the positive changes that come from facing our past and working together. Don't let fear drive us apart again." Henry, seeing his influence slipping, shouted, "Don't listen to them. They're leading us to ruin." But before he could continue, an elderly woman from the crowd stepped forward. It was Mrs. Henderson, who had apologized at the town gathering. "Henry, stop this madness. I've seen the good that Alex and his friends have done. They've brought us together, and they've given us hope. Don't let fear destroy what we've built." Her words struck a chord with many in the crowd. Slowly, the anger and tension began to dissipate. People lowered their torches and looked at each other, questioning their actions. Henry, realizing he was losing control, made one last attempt. "You're making a mistake. This will end badly for all of us." But the crowd was no longer listening to him. They turned away from Henry and began to disperse, their anger replaced by a desire to understand and heal. As the crowd left, Henry stood alone, his power broken. Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena watched him go, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. "We've won this battle," Marcus said quietly, "but the fight isn't over. We still have a lot of work to do." Alex nodded. "But we've taken a big step forward. The town is beginning to see the truth, and that's the most important thing." Elena looked out at the town, her heart filled with hope. "We're on the right path. As long as we stay true to our principles and continue to work together, we can overcome any obstacle." Sarah smiled. "Raven's Hollow is changing for the better, and we're a part of that change. Let's keep moving forward." With renewed determination, the group returned to their work, knowing that the path ahead would be challenging but believing in the power of unity and truth to guide them through. Notes: Setting: Sarah's house, town library, streets of Raven's Hollow. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Mrs. Lang, Councilman Henry Whitaker, Mrs. Henderson. Plot development: Henry Whitaker confronts the group, trying to discredit them and maintain his power. The town is divided, but ultimately the group's message of unity prevails. Themes: confrontation, fear versus truth, the power of unity, overcoming resistance. Foreshadowing: the chapter hints at future challenges but underscores the importance of staying united and committed to the truth. The final stand: the atmosphere in Raven's Hollow was charged with a sense of anticipation. The confrontation with Henry Whitaker had been a significant victory, but Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena knew that their work was far from over. The town was still on edge, and the threat of the malevolent presence they had been battling loomed larger than ever. Despite the progress they had made, there were still dark forces at play, and the group knew they had to confront them head-on to secure the future of Raven's Hollow. As the group gathered at the library one evening, Mrs. Lang presented a discovery she had made while researching the town's ancient texts. "I found references to a ritual that might help us dispel the malevolent force once and for all," she said, her voice serious. "It's a risky endeavor, but it's our best chance." Elena, who had become the group's spiritual guide, nodded. "We've come this far. We can't back down now." "What does the ritual involve?" Mrs. Lang explained the details, highlighting the need for precise timing and the importance of unity and intention. The ritual would require them to return to the heart of the hollow, where they would perform a series of incantations to cleanse the land and restore balance. Alex, ever the leader, looked around at his friends. "We've faced so much together already. This is our final stand. Are we all in?" One by one, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena agreed. They knew the risks but were determined to see their mission through. The group spent the next few days preparing, gathering supplies, and practicing the ritual steps. The town, sensing the gravity of the situation, offered their support and prayers. On the night of the ritual, the group made their way to the heart of the hollow. The forest was eerily quiet, as if holding its breath in anticipation of the events to come. The ancient stone altar stood waiting, bathed in the light of a full moon. As they began the ritual, Elena led the incantations, her voice strong and clear. The air around them seemed to vibrate with energy, and the ground beneath their feet hummed with a deep, resonant power. The group moved in unison, each step and word carefully synchronized. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and a chilling wind swept through the clearing. The malevolent presence they had sensed before manifested, a dark, swirling mass of energy that seemed to suck the light from the moonlit night. Henry Whittaker, who had been secretly watching from the shadows, saw his chance. Fueled by fear and a desire to regain control, he stepped forward, interrupting the ritual. "Stop this madness," he shouted. "You're meddling with forces beyond your understanding." The interruption caused the ritual to falter, and the dark presence surged, feeding off the chaos. Sarah turned to Henry, her eyes blazing with determination. "You don't understand. We're trying to save the town." But Henry was beyond reasoning. He lunged at the group, attempting to disrupt the ritual entirely. In the ensuing struggle, it became clear that their unity was being tested to its limits. Marcus, who had always been the skeptic, found himself facing the dark presence directly. In that moment, he realized the truth of what they were fighting. Summoning all his courage, he stood firm and began to recite the incantations, his voice joining Elena's. Alex and Sarah worked to restrain Henry, who thrashed and fought, his fear and anger fueling the dark energy. "This has to end, Henry," Alex shouted. "We need to finish the ritual." With a final, desperate effort, Elena and Marcus completed the incantations, their voices rising in a harmonious crescendo. The air crackled with power, and the dark presence recoiled, writhing in agony as the ritual took effect. The ground beneath the altar glowed with a brilliant light, and the malevolent force was drawn into the earth, dissipating into nothingness. As the light faded, a profound silence settled over the clearing. Henry, exhausted and defeated, sank to his knees. He looked up at Alex, a mixture of fear and confusion in his eyes. "What have I done?" Alex extended a hand, helping him to his feet. "You let fear control you, Henry. But it's not too late to change." The group, now united in their victory, returned to the town, where the residents awaited news of their success. As they recounted the events, a sense of relief and hope spread through the crowd. The dark presence that had plagued Raven's Hollow was gone, and a new era of unity and understanding had begun. In the weeks that followed, the town worked together to heal the wounds of the past. Henry Whittaker, humbled by the experience, joined the efforts to rebuild and strengthen the community. The heart of the Hollow was protected and revered, a symbol of the town's resilience and the power of unity. Alex, Sarah, Marcus, and Elena knew that their journey had come to an end, but the bond they had forged would last a lifetime. They had faced the unknown and emerged stronger, proving that even in the darkest times, the human spirit could triumph. As they stood together at the edge of the forest, looking out over the town they had saved, Alex spoke for them all. "We did it. Raven's Hollow is safe, and its future is bright. We've shown that together, we can overcome anything." And with that, they turned back towards the town, ready to embrace the future with hope and determination. Notes: setting, Heart of the Hollow, Streets of Raven's Hollow. Main characters: Alex Carter, Sarah Mitchell, Marcus, Elena, Mrs. Lang, Councilman Henry Whittaker. Plot development: the final confrontation with the malevolent presence and Henry Whittaker. The successful completion of the ritual and the unification of the town. Themes: unity, overcoming fear, the power of intention, the strength of the human spirit. Resolution: the dark presence is dispelled, the town is united, and a new era of hope begins. Dawn of hope. In the quiet aftermath of the storm that had ravaged Raven's Hollow, the town begins to heal. The once heavy fog of fear lifts, replaced by a cautious sense of optimism. Life slowly returns to the streets, echoing with the sound of rebuilding and renewal. For the group of unlikely heroes who had braved the darkness together, there is a moment of reflection. Gathered in the heart of Raven's Hollow, they sit around a table, illuminated by flickering candlelight. Each face carries the scars of their journey, but also the quiet resolve of survivors. Elena, once haunted by her past, now finds solace in the friendships she forged. Her laughter, once scarce, now fills the room, a testament to the healing power of companionship. Eric, the steadfast protector, reflects on the battles won and lost. Though his body bears the marks of sacrifice, his spirit burns brighter than ever, fueled by the bonds of brotherhood. Sophia, the scholar-turned-warrior, gazes into the flames with a newfound clarity. Through the trials they faced, she discovered strength she never knew she possessed, a strength born of love and loyalty. And Marcus, the reluctant leader, meets their eyes with a sense of pride. In the face of overwhelming darkness, they had stood together, a beacon of hope in the night. As they share stories and laughter, a sense of peace settles over them. Though the scars of their journey may never fade, they carry with them the knowledge that they are not alone. In each other, they find strength. In their shared bond, they find hope. And so, as the epilogue draws to a close, Raven's Hollow looks to the horizon with a sense of cautious optimism. Though the road ahead may be fraught with challenges, they face it together, united in purpose and bound by friendship. For in the dawn of hope, anything is possible.